Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy. Alright guys, I hope you guys have been having a good week. I hope you guys are having a very good start to the new year, the new decade. I hope you guys are eating a lot of meat and taking care of your bodies. Alright guys, so this video I am very excited to share with you guys. Today I sat down with some very awesome carnivore women. So I purposely picked some of these women to sit down with because we all are on the carnivore diet for different reasons. We are all healing, but our journeys are so different. We've been doing it for different periods of time, but collectively, all of us together, we have been doing the carnivore diet for almost 2 decades. I can't wait for you guys to see this and watch all of our mini shares and answer some of your most frequently asked questions. All right, guys, let's get right into it. Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy, and I am so excited. I have not one, not two, but I have 3 carnivore women with me, and I'm sure most of you guys know who they are, but I will let them introduce themselves. We are going to answer a lot of your common FAQs for carnivore. We are going to answer how much they eat in a day and what they eat. So I purposely try to get people that are a little different, that eat differently, so I would love to introduce you guys to them. So Laura, Lisa, Pam, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, so if you guys could sort of just introduce yourselves and how long you guys have been doing carnivore. So Laura, would you like to get started?
Sure. My name is Laura Spath. I started more of like a keto diet about 2 years ago, and then within a few months, I had transitioned to a pretty strict carnivore diet and have been strict carnivore now for about 18 months. During that time, I have worked to lose some weight, lost over 100 pounds, and my family kind of has all gotten on board as well. And we kind of are now like a whole carnivore family for the most part, and have been working on maintaining it and kind of figuring out how to abstain from carbs and sugar long term. And so that's been the biggest part of carnivore for me, is learning how to just kind of break that food addiction and that sugar addiction.
I'm Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. I'm an optometric physician. I have actually been doing carnivore for 11 years. And I came to carnivore just on a lifelong journey of carb addiction and trying to figure out how to not become obese and diabetic like my parents and my brother. And just over time, I hit upon Charles Washington's Zeroing In on Health forum, and so thankful I did, because it was really the golden ticket that changed my life from having big problems with carb and sugar addiction and eating disorders. And now I feel like I'm on a mission just through helping patients that are diabetic and having problems with their eyes because of the diabetes, and just people. I've had patients with very bad inflammatory disorders that had eye inflammation, recurrent uveitis problems, and I've actually just quietly, privately coached for the past 11 years some friends and select patients who are willing to listen. But I'm really, now people are wondering why I'm coming out now. It's just because I feel the movement is so big, and I just want to try to help as many people as I can. And it's just been amazing seeing all of the changes that have happened in the past couple of years, that I'm kind of excited to help join the tribe and get the word out.
Well, thank you. I think it's huge that you could come out. Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Kenny. I'm a married mom of 3 daughters. I work full-time, and I also study holistic nutrition. At the end of this month, I will have been carnivore for 3 years, and I began my carnivore journey through Sean Baker, who challenged some of his followers on Twitter to try it. I was coming from a keto background of about 2 years, and I gave it a try 3 years ago, February, and haven't looked back since.
Thank you. That's amazing. It's all of your journeys are a little different, but we kind of all, it's interesting that we've all sort of
found a place that we are healing. We have different stories of why we're healing. And so if you guys could share a little bit of, what was like the biggest health, mental healing that you found doing carnivore? Laura, do you want to start?
I think I didn't realize the anxiety that I was dealing with until I switched to a strict carnivore diet. I realized, I just always came across as like a high-strung person or a stressed out person. And I think, that most people would just say that was just I was just like that, and that's just who I was. And I didn't realize until kind of getting all the stuff out of my diet, all the junk out of my diet, how much more calm and peaceful that I really was. And so I think that was one of the biggest healing moments. Weight loss is more obvious, but just dealing with kind of healing from anxiety, and just feeling better all the time has been one of the biggest things for me.
I think for me, as time went on and I was on the forums and talking to other people, realizing we called it what's called the zero carb zen, where you just start feeling just good about life and feeling that, everything about the way you obsessed about either food or sugar or, everybody's coming from a different angle, but there's just so many things that it heals. And I feel that it really changes your life in so many ways that are kind of indescribable until you experience it yourself and become fully adapted. And I think everybody's journey is different, but I've not heard one person say it's less than amazing.
I totally agree.
Me too. Zero carb zen is real. Two things for me. One is physically, I suffered from IBS from the time I was, I think about 15, I was diagnosed. Created a lot of deficiencies in my body and created a terrible relationship with food for most of my adult life. Ever since I went carnivore, within the first 5 days, my symptoms of IBS have been in complete remission. I don't say that it's cured because I honestly don't know if I went back to having fiber in my system, if my symptoms would return. But certainly with no fiber in my diet, my symptoms are completely in remission. I have not had one episode of IBS in 3 years. And secondly is my mental health. I was diagnosed with depression as a teenager, but looking back, I had generalized anxiety disorder since I was a little girl. And Zero Carb Zen has saved my life. I just feel a calmness, a happiness. I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. It's just a wonderful feeling of being every day, and it's consistent. And I just love feeling like this.
It's pretty amazing. It's not only is there obviously the physical changes and the benefits of, having a more normalized weight, but I think the benefit that a lot of people notice without it being the primary reason that people try carnivore is the mental health aspect. I mean, for me, myself, with just like you, Pam, I struggle with depression. I've had anxiety like Laura, and a lot of it is normalized. I thought I was high strung all the time too. And I mean, I still have bouts of it, but I mean, it's definitely so much more even on the carnivore diet. So, I mean, it's pretty fascinating. I think we all have different, again, stories, but there's so much feeling. And like you said, Lisa, it's like the zero carb zen is, I think it's very real. And I don't think people will ever understand it until they fully get carnivore adapted. So,
that's so true. And we need to do better at making the connection between nutrition and mental health. It's so important. It's not just physical symptoms. I mean, people are ignoring those and not relating them back to food. But mental health, especially, we need to start connecting them.
So one of the biggest questions I get is, what do you guys eat in a day? Do you guys get food fatigue? And then, so if you guys can just kind of talk about, one, when you first started carnivore, what did you eat in a day? And then has that really changed from sort of what you settled on now, several years into carnivore? So Laura, if you want to.
I think in the beginning, I did eat a lot more variety. I was kind of mixing things up with chicken and ground beef, lots of different kinds of steaks, pork, bacon, and had a lot of variety. I started with 3 meals a day, and then even, a lot of eggs and bacon, maybe some chicken for a meal, and then some red meat for a meal. And then pretty quickly went to 2 meals. And where I've been the longest for, at least for almost the full 18 months has just been 1 meal a day. It's where I mentally and physically feel best, is to do one large meal. I like eating a lot at one time. And I also find that less variety in the long run has helped me better. The longer I do this, the less that I want chicken, the less that I want other meats. And so, if I could have a plate of 2 fresh grilled ribeyes in front of me every day for my lunch, that would be perfect. And that's kind of all I would ever want. Due to cost reasons, I do mix it up. Otherwise, for some reason, this week I've had a lot of variety. I had some eggs and ground beef for one day. Today I had, shrimp and steak and a sausage. So more just because that's what was in the fridge and I was working with a budget this week. But I think if people are finding fatigue, there's lots of different methods and cuts of meat. You can have a steak, and a steak is not a steak, right? You can have a grilled ribeye versus a cast iron New York strip, and those are 2 very completely different tastes and flavors and textures. And so sometimes if I have felt some kind of fatigue, I would do like a skirt steak and a ribeye. So I'm having a nice, tender, juicy piece of meat with more of a chewier, different texture of meat. And so that's how I've given myself variety and how I prefer versus adding in a bunch of other flavors.
For me, I think same natural progression from 2 meals a day to often now it's 1 meal a day. I feel like I'm like Laura. I like to eat more at one meal and just fill up, and then just not have to pay attention to it for the rest of the day. I never get tired of a grilled ribeye, but I do vary based on social situations, going out to dinner with friends. I always try to lean it toward a restaurant that I know I can get a good steak. But I think that the ultimate goal as long term is just getting actually just comfortable with changing your whole relationship with food. That it's really not such an entertainment kind of thing, and you just kind of think about, all right, what am I going to eat? I eat what makes me feel good. For me, it really is, I'll have beef, I'll have veal, but I do change it up every so often. And it's not for boredom. It's just, whatever. It's something that I see at the store and I pick it up and I buy it. But overall, I'd say 80 to 90% of my meals are a steak or ground beef, and it's typically 1 meal a day.
I eat just about anything from the animal kingdom, all kinds of meats, eggs I love, and I eat lots of seafood. I do mix it up, but I rarely go more than 1 day without eating beef. Beef is definitely my staple food. It is what makes me feel the best. It's what keeps me full the longest. It's my favorite thing to eat. As far as fatigue goes, when I'm hungry for meat every single time. I think my body is just conditioned to expect to eat meat. Even after dinner, when I walk the dog, even if I have a full stomach and I walk by the steakhouse, it still smells so good. I want to go in. If I didn't have the dog, I probably would. I never get tired of it. It's what I always want.
So, Pam, do you normally eat 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, or does it vary?
I would love to do 1 meal a day, but I just can't eat enough in one sitting. So I'm breaking a fast around 1:30 every day, and then I eat dinner at 5. And then I don't eat again till the next day. I get to a point and I can't chew anymore. Like, I'm just done eating. And the days that I have OMADed, I will find following up to that, maybe the day after that, I'm low energy. So I just know I just haven't consumed enough food. So I'm still doing 2 meals a day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, so with your second meal, do you normally feel hungry, or is it because you know that you need to eat a little bit more?
I'm feeling hungry. So my first meal of the day is usually not as big. It's probably half of what I would eat for dinner.
Gotcha. Yeah, because one question I get a lot from, a lot of people that are newly starting carnivore is, when they first get off glucose and then insulin, then they don't ever feel hungry. And so they're like, in that small 8-hour window, how do you even get 2 meals in one sitting? But then they also have, some of them can do the OMAD and then that'll take care of it. But some people are like, I can't eat anymore in 1 meal. And so I think what you're saying, Pam, makes a lot of sense. Is maybe you start with the smaller meal so that you can then fit another meal and add more nutrient dense calories, so that you're eating enough in a day. So I think that makes sense. I think I teeter from both of all of what you guys said. Some days I do OMAD. I noticed I was gaining a little bit of weight, so then I started moving to TUMAD, and that has kind of helped me. But I too have transitioned to beef. I think I just, I don't know, I just crave beef more than any other meat. But I know, Pam, with all your pictures, I always see an array of animal foods, and I was like, I definitely need to ask Pam about that. So
Yeah, I like my variety.
yeah, no, that's awesome.
Judy, I'm the opposite, where if I try to eat 2 meals a day, I start gaining pretty instantly, because once I eat a second time, I just can't stop. And so I end up eating 2 really big meals instead of 1 big meal, or then I end up snacking a lot. So anytime I've tried to go back to 2 meals, I just end up gaining or like way overeating.
Yeah, so it's definitely hard because I'm kind of your mindset too. So where whenever I eat, I'm like, okay, I can't just stop eating. So that's why I transitioned to OMAD, and that really helped. But then sometimes I didn't know if I was teetering on, am I binging in this meal by overeating? You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I have 1 meal, so it's like the whole refrigerator, the whole kitchen is mine to eat.
Yeah.
And so I just noticed that I was gaining weight. So, and I think the biggest thing was my energy was dipping. So then I would check my glucose, and my sugar levels were actually kind of high. And so I think I was having too much protein in one sitting. And so when I transitioned to TUMAD, that's where the 2 meals a day, that's where I noticed my energy has become more normalized. And so that's huge for me. But I still struggle, in all honesty. So I try to do a smaller lunch, which then will help me to eating normal dinner. But yeah, I mean, there are some days I way overeat, but I mean, it's nothing compared to like the standard American diet kind of over. So with that said, do you guys count macros? So do you guys, there's a lot of questions of how many calories should I eat in a day, macros? Do you guys eat 2 to 1 in terms of fat to protein, or 1 to 1? Like, where do you guys do any of that stuff? So Laura, if you want to.
I don't. People do ask, like, what's your fat to protein ratio? And I just usually answer like whatever a ribeye is. Like, I don't really know. I do know for a while I was kind of like cutting off all the fat chunks of a ribeye, and noticed that I was feeling a little more low energy. And so when I knew I was eating a little bit too lean at that point, it also affected my hormones. So once I really didn't change anything else other than just making sure that I ate all the fat on the ribeye and didn't worry as much about like cutting off all the chunks. But really that's about as advanced as I've gotten as far as figuring out my fat to protein ratio, is just kind of using based on how I feel. And then, hey, I should just focus on eating the fat that's on the meat and not cutting it off. And that's really the only adjustment that I made. But one time I put in 2 pounds of ribeye into a calorie tracker just to see what that would be. And I was like 2,300 calories. And that's pretty typical for me. So other than that, I really don't do any tracking. I don't know, like yesterday I had a pound of ground beef and 4 eggs. I don't know what the calories on that would be. So I don't really pay attention to any of that stuff.
Do you cook with added fat, or do you just cook with meat?
So I would say 90% of the time I'm eating something grilled, and I don't use any added fat for that, or even any oils. When I cooked the eggs yesterday, I did put a little bit of butter in them, but for the most part, I'm really not using any fat unless I cooked with some butter and eggs.
For me, I'm happy to say I skipped right over the whole keto movement. Because I didn't want to have to deal with counting micros or macros or carbs. And I'm thankful I literally just bounded from sort of Paleolithic, or I don't know even what I want to call it, Atkins or whatever back then, right into zero carb. And you know what? I was in contact with Joe and Charlene Anderson, who for 20 years have eaten nothing but ribeye, and seeing how really healthy they look and are, I said, you know what, there's got to be something to the ratio of whatever's in ribeye. So for me, I pretty much was sticking to ground beef, ribeye, New York strip, but I certainly eat other things at other times. But for the most part, I'm really not counting anything. I a lot of times when I grill, I'll grill 4 to 6 ribeyes at a time, so that I'll eat 1 or 2 at my meal and then have another 1, or 2 the next day and just have extra in the fridge. But I don't really pay attention to the amount that I eat. I eat until I just look at it and say I'm done, and I'm done. So that's one of the really freeing things I think about this way of eating is you really don't have to pay attention to anything except get hungry and eat till you're full.
I agree.
That is the best part about carnivore for sure. When I did keto, so 5 years ago, I started keto. I did a lot of tracking. I don't miss it at all, but it did teach me a lot about food. So I have to say, like, if you're trying to find your way with that kind of like keto eating, I mean, it's a good tool. I don't track anymore with carnivore unless I have a post that I'm going to do where there's going to be some sort of comparison, because I know the first question I'm going to get asked is something about macros or something about calories. So if I'm going to do a comparison post, I will, take a typical day and throw it into my Fitness Pal so I have an idea. So I did do some tracking for the challenge, Judy, that we just completed, just so I would know what my average calorie intake was. And same as Laura, 2,300 calories a day was basically what almost every day worked out to be. So I eat until I'm full now. And I do notice if I'm, sometimes I crave butter. I think about putting butter on my steak, and sometimes I don't. I think really my body is telling me when it wants fat. Sometimes I cook up some eggs and don't add anything to them. Other times I think, I'll put some lard in the pan before I cook them. So I think I'm starting to get into the intuitive eating where my body is going to ask for what it needs. I hope that's the way it's going to work. And I think that, when I think about adding the fat, it might be when I need it.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you guys notice if you typically eat the same amount every day? I know, Laura, you mentioned it's about like 2 ribeyes, but are there certain days where, 2 ribeyes is just too much for you?
Maybe a little too much, but I would say I'm always between 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat. I don't, unless I go to Fogo de Chao, I'll probably hit 3 pounds. But that's usually pretty intentional. But just naturally at home, I'm really close to the exact same amount every day. I really don't have times when I'm like, unless I'm out of my routine or try to eat something different, but it's pretty consistent.
What about you, Lisa?
I think for me, I think it varies a little bit on working out. Sometimes I think I'll be a little bit hungrier, but I'd say typically it's just about the same every day. It doesn't really vary that much. It becomes kind of boring, but it's just wonderful boring.
Well, what about
pretty consistent as well? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm the same too. I don't know if it's because I put the food in front of me and then I can just kind of finish it, but I typically just cook up the same amount too. In terms of, just for the people that are watching, but in terms of ribeye, I think it ends up being about 1.5 to 1 3/4 fat to protein. So that's probably why we feel good on ribeyes. A lot of our hormones require fat in order to be made. So, we need fat, and that's why I think a lot of times when we eat leaner, our energy starts to tank. So I think it makes sense why we like to eat fattier cuts of meat, and it just, not only does it make us feel better, but it's just, our bodies require it, especially our hormones, and every single cell of our body needs fat. Okay, so moving on, do any of you guys, eat any non-carnivorous foods? Do you guys add any sweeteners? Some people kind of tend to argue that zero carb includes all the sweetener, like the diet sodas, the stevias, the erythritol, etc. So do you guys, I think the Bear, he used to make an ice cream that used a little bit of stevia, so then people are like, oh, that's part of zero carb. But what about you, Laura?
I don't now. Early on, I definitely am open about the fact that I had a diet soda addiction, and that was very real and very, gripping on me for a long time. It's not something I condone or encourage people to do, but it was just part of the addiction that I was dealing with. And so but it's not something that I have now. I really don't eat anything other than, animal foods at all. Actually, I'm trying to think of the last time I had anything else.
definitely no sweeteners at all. And when you say non-carnivore food, I'll say like if there's grilled kielbasa that's cut in pieces with a toothpick and there's some mustard. I do happen to love mustard. I don't think it's such a horrible cheat to dip some kielbasa in mustard. It's never really affected me negatively. So that might be, if you want to call that a cheat, one of the things that I might do. That's about it.
I guess too, I use spices. I'm not sure if that counts or not, but like I have my adobo and smoked paprika I put on a lot of my steaks. So I don't get too crazy with spices, but that combination is just something I cook a lot of steaks in. And other than that, salt. But that would be the only non-animal food I consume regularly is a couple spices.
Yeah, absolutely. For me too. I use dried herb spices in like dry rubs on baby back ribs or whatever on steaks. I don't consider spices to be non-zero carb. So
I haven't in a long time, but I do enjoy a little bit of dark chocolate and some seasonal berries in the summertime with some heavy whipped cream. I didn't do it for any of the challenge though, so I'm still going strong. Other than that, I only salt my steaks. I don't use spices, and I've never enjoyed sweeteners, so I've never had any of that.
So when you cook all your seafood, you don't add any other seasonings other than salt?
Yeah, and butter. Use butter. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what about dairy for you guys? Do you guys use cheese, butter?
So butter for me has never been an issue. I use it again, like if I cook eggs or something, but it's pretty minimal. As far as cheese goes, I definitely go through phases where I'll eat way too much cheese for a month or something, or use it as a special occasion. It's kind of like a celebration food or a cheat, but I know that it's a slippery slope for me, and I tend to just overeat it and I end up gaining. Not so much like if I was to have no cheese for a month and then have like a piece of cheese, I wouldn't feel different physically. It's just that I can't stop with a piece of cheese and then I end up overeating it, which then would cause like some bloat and weight gain. But that's more just because I'm not capable of moderating. But it is still something that I use around the holidays. I had a lot of cheese. If we go out to dinner, sometimes I'll get cheese on burger patties or some kind of fancy cheese on my birthday. But other than that, I tried to keep it out of my daily life.
I'm going to say that is almost identical to my situation. Almost.
We've talked about this a lot before together.
Almost identical. I keep trying to kick it out of my life and it keeps clawing its way back in. But, I would change to saying it's not in my daily life, but when I go on vacation, I can have cheese. Or, if I'm at a wedding and, that's in the appetizers and, I'll say, okay, I can have cheese. But I think I also, like Laura, I don't feel like I have any sort of negative effect as far as I don't really feel, maybe the bloating, I guess we could call a negative effect. Keeping the weight off is very difficult because once I have a slice of cheese, I'm heading right into the whole brick of it. I love to put it on a plate and microwave it and get some ooey gooey warm cheese going, or put it in a pan and actually fry it. It's amazing. But again, that's that slippery slope that, I might do it when, I'm at a point where, I'm frustrated with something and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to treat myself to some cheese. So that's how I use it. And again, I think it's an ongoing little battle I have because I do love it. There's probably not much of any cheese that I've met that I haven't liked. So, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's not something that I go crazy craving and feel like I can't get off. But I've read articles about the addictive nature of it and the casein that's in it, and realize that it's really not good for me to keep long term. I know some people keep dairy totally fine in their diets, but for me to keep as lean as I'd like to be and to feel the way I feel, I know the cheese has really got to not be a part of the daily regimen.
I love cheese. I still have lots of hard cheeses, heavy whipping cream, butter, and halloumi. But I do, like, if I put 2 slices of halloumi on my plate for dinner, I do always eat the meat first, and oftentimes will end up giving an extra slice to my husband because, I can't eat that much. I don't notice any ill effects or intolerances to dairy for myself. I mean, that could change down the road, but right now I'm happy eating it.
I also like teeter with dairy. I didn't initially when I first started, but then I noticed I did this sort of challenge for myself and I didn't have dairy for almost 6 months. And then I noticed I got a lot leaner. And then my skin was really, really clear. And then once I added it back in, that's when I sort of started to notice some of the sensitivities. Sometimes I get more eczema. I definitely feel the bloat. So my stomach isn't as lean. And so that's the only time I notice. So I think if you're always constantly eating dairy, you won't really notice the differences until you take it out and then reintroduce it. I think I forgot the number, but I believe it's about 70% of people are actually have a little bit of lactose intolerance or some sort of sensitivity to dairy. And then also, I think the fact why we crave it, why we love it so much, first of all, it has that umami flavor. There's that little bit of craveability to it because, I mean, dairy is used to make a cow double its size in a few weeks. So it makes sense why, we may tend to gain weight on it or why it tastes so good. I think it's supposed to be that way. So
I'll add a comment that I forgot to comment on the butter. I do use butter. I enjoy butter. Sometimes I'll put it, especially if I'm served a tenderloin of steak where I feel it's very lean. I'll enjoy, putting butter on that. Definitely when I'm cooking eggs and anytime if I were going to make shrimp, I'll make a sauce of a lot of butter, a little heavy whipping cream, and a little grated Parmesan I'll mix together to sort of make an Alfredo sauce for the shrimp. And I have no aversion really to the butter or eating butter. I don't really think it makes that much. It's totally different for me than the whole cheese issue.
I agree. And I'm a big proponent of people consuming butter just because, everyone says, where are you getting your short chain fatty acids for your butyrate? And, if you have a little bit of grass-fed butter, you can have that butyrate that's good for your gut. So what about fasting for you guys? Do you guys kind of unintentionally intermittent fast? Do you sort of practice extended fasting?
It's definitely been a big part of my last 18 months and how that has looked has changed. But, meal a day is fasting, and then also I do at least one 48-hour fast a week. When I was really working to lose the most weight, I was probably doing 2 of those, or a 72-hour fast a week. I have done extended fasts. I did, a 7-day fast, which aren't things I do. The extended fast I don't do as much anymore. I would say now about every other week I'm doing a 48-hour fast, but I have gotten a lot more relaxed about that in the last few months. But it definitely has been a big part of healing me physically. I notice a big difference. I think it does heal me a lot physically, and also mentally it helps to break that constant obsession with food all the time. And you realize that you're not actually hungry. Like I can go 48 hours, especially if I eat a really big meal, go to Fogo de Chao and eat, I would not be hungry for 48 hours. So it's not forcing myself to push further than I'm comfortable. It's just really, if I just truly acknowledge when I'm hungry next, it's usually more than 24 hours anyway. So that's been important for me from the mental standpoint and also a physical standpoint.
I'd say for me, the whole intermittent fasting has been much more recent. I'd say just in this past year, out of all these years of doing the zero carb, I never really paid attention to it. But just after, listening to a lot of what Dr. Fung says and reading things, I said, you know what, I think there is something to it. So that's when I was more, maybe I'm going to say intentionally doing one meal a day, although I was really kind of doing that very often anyway. But I started doing a couple 36 to 48-hour fasts. And just realize that, you know what, this is really interesting to try to figure out, listen to my body and say, is this something I can do and can I sustain it, and what's the reason for doing it? So I'm just kind of experimenting with that, but I'd say I do a 36-hour maybe every other week. That's about the extent of what I do. But I think just doing the one meal a day fairly consistently is pretty beneficial.
Lisa, have you noticed any differences since doing the 36-hour fast? I mean, or doing any of these intentional fasts now compared to the 10 years that you weren't doing that?
You know, it's interesting. Not really, not so much. It's really interesting to realize that, like Laura said, there, you know, it's more a mental thing of thinking, all right, I should be eating, but like hunger-wise, it's so interesting. It'll go in a little bit of ways. I'll feel a little hunger, and then it totally goes away. And when 36 to 40 hours is there, and it's like time for me to say, okay, I can eat, I'm like, wow, I'm not really even hungry. So that's really been interesting. But so I think it's really too new for me to try to really analyze whether I've had any sort of additional changes or benefits to either mental or physical changes. But so I think it's really a journey, and it's individual. I think some people might not do well at all with fasting, and there's a lot of people that are against fasting. I think it's natural and normal. I think man, through evolution, hunted and really didn't eat for a couple days. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I actually think there are health benefits to it. So maybe the verdict's still out, but I think just like the movement of carnivore, I think the movement of intermittent fasting is sort of paralleling with us.
I agree with that, Lisa. I've naturally fallen into an 18-hour fast day. The longest I've ever done is 25 hours. I'm toying with the idea of going up to 36. Maybe this spring I'll start doing that maybe once a week. I find I'm more focused when I'm fasting. It feels like the longer I'm going, the better I feel. I have to say, though, the best part is the mental break from food. It's glorious to not think about food for that time.
What about supplementation? Do you guys, there's a lot of questions about what about your electrolytes, vitamins, fiber, vitamin C?
So I guess a blanket statement would say I take nothing. An exception to those things would be early on, I was putting salt in water just because I thought I do. And I've gone through some periods where I took like a vitamin D supplement or a fish oil supplement here and there, never consistently, and nothing for a really long time. So I've never taken vitamin C. I don't take any specific branded electrolytes or a multivitamin or anything like that. So in general, the majority of the time I've taken nothing other than, maybe a month of like a vitamin D supplement or something like that, just to kind of see what happened. But at that point I noticed no difference. So I just stopped taking it because I didn't notice any difference.
Yeah, for me, literally the entire time I have never taken really a single vitamin, nutrient, mineral, nothing, no salt and water. I've never did anything. 11 years later, I'm feeling healthier than I've ever felt. And I don't feel like I'm deficient in anything. And, maybe if I notice some sort of symptoms, I might start looking into it. But
I do supplement with vitamin D and K2. I live in Southern Ontario. When I go to work in the morning, it's dark. When I get home from work, it's dark, and I work indoors. About 3 years ago, I did a vitamin D test, and I was severely, severely deficient. So since then, I've been able to get up into a healthy, normal range. But just to be proactive, I do take D3 through the winter months. I think a lot of people in Canada do that just to be safe. We know how important vitamin D is for our bodies.
You could do solar therapy, I get, because obviously I get enough sun.
Yes.
But I have a friend who's carnivore the same length of time I am. She lives up in Montreal, and she does solar therapy instead of taking the vitamin D. But I agree, if you're really not getting any time in the sun, that's probably wise.
I mean, we have a lot of gray winter days. It's really dark here a lot of the time. So I do feel like it's necessary. I do feel like supplementation has a place, but I also feel like the best place to get nutrients is from food. 100%.
And none of us do organ meats regularly. I mean, I've never had any ever. I know Lisa doesn't, and I don't think, Pam, you do either at all, right? Or not regularly?
Of liver.
Okay.
Yeah.
But none of us take any supplements to make up for not having organs either.
No.
Well, I try to get organ meat for my kids, but these it's a battle. But I mean, especially with my older one now, he's like, oh, my friends say it smells, you know, when I send him liver pate. But I mean, that's another story. But so I try to on a weekly basis, but it hasn't been working out that way. So, but no, I don't supplement. I had a question actually for you, Pam. So when you got tested and then you were really low in vitamin D, did you feel any symptoms?
I didn't, but I was keto then. I was still having a lot of digestive issues. I was low energy. So, I mean, it kind of all wrapped up into one. I don't know if the symptoms were from being deficient in vitamin D or if it was just from my poor digestion. I mean, I'm sure it was probably a combination of both. Lots of headaches, tired, you know, not wanting to get up in the morning, a little bit achy, joint aches. Yeah, but it was probably a combination of both things.
I think I'm on the lower end of vitamin D too, and my doctor wanted me to supplement, but I was going to. I talked to Laura about it, but I don't think we ended up really doing it. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel anything though. So I mean, I'm teetering. In my book, I've researched it, and it's just after a ton of research, I still don't know if it's beneficial to supplement. I mean, but again, I'm not on a very low range. I'm just on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
But after doing a bunch of research with all the fat soluble vitamins working together, vitamin D, calcium, you know, and all the different nutrients being in such balance, the research can go both ways, to be honest. I know there's a ton of people that are like, you should have like 10,000 IU units a day. But I've read other research that's saying, no, it's not the vitamin D, it could be something else. So, I mean, even after writing that part of the book, it's like, it's up to you. That's sort of where I stand with it. But yeah, you know, if I were in your shoes, I'd do the same thing. I'd take the safer bet.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us live down south though, so we're
it's out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I do want to ask you guys is, so I know a lot of people that are not carnivore, like, yeah, everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. Why does everyone have such good things to say about carnivore? It's like BS. So, you know, just to put a little bit of like limelight on carnivore, if you guys were to say there's anything sort of negative, a challenge you had eating this way, what would it be?
I think still for me is the mental aspect of it, and maybe just because I am kind of a baby in all this still, and it's only been, you know, 18 months, and it has been even less time than that when I have been like, you know, extremely strict and focused on, you know, the time that I've realized that I have an addiction to carbs, and that you know, still like a year that I've been dealing that, even more like 9 months that I've been processing that and coming to terms with it. I think sometimes I still get pretty emotional and want to know, like, why can't I just be normal? I'm very content on a good days. I love eating the way that I eat, and I really don't want any other food. I don't crave any other food, but it's more just that social element of it. Sometimes it's difficult for me. You know, again, like I could be feeling strong and go out to dinner with friends and sit and not eat, or eat my steak and eat my burger patties. But sometimes you feel this pressure to want to be normal and take your kids out for ice cream. And I don't want them to eat ice cream, and I don't want to eat ice cream myself, but I want those memories. And, you know, it's hard sometimes for me. And I'm working to create other memories with my kids around Christmas that aren't cookie making and doing things that are not about food and sugar. But it doesn't mean that it's always easy. So I know what I'm supposed to do, and I know that that's, you know, what to do, but sometimes I grieve that a little bit, I guess. I grieve not having sugar. So I'm physically over it, but still there's an emotional loss that I feel sometimes. And I don't want that to feel like it's every day all the time. It's not something I obsess over. But it does come and go in waves, and dealing with it around the holidays was one of those waves. Same thing when you get to be like around somebody's birthday or, you know, something like that. it makes you feel that loss a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, and I really appreciate you being honest. I think the holidays are just filled with a lot of emotional, like there's a family love, and a lot of it centers around food, and it unfortunately centers around sugary foods. And so that loss can be more than just about the food. It's just, now you have to actually think outside of the box and fill like a different memory, like you're saying. And so I think it's very normal what you're feeling.
I just remember the readings of The Bear and how he said that it is so difficult to sustain this because of pretty much from birth. We've all been brought up in a certain way, to eat a certain way, and our mom's making certain things, and the holidays meaning certain things, and it's very difficult to break that. So I think for all of us, though, we have a driving force, a motivating force that keeps us centered to say, this has really been the golden ticket that's changed my life, and I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize that. I'll say for me, it's interesting. There was some of the awkwardness is in social situations, and just this past New Year's Eve, I sort of thought we were going out to like some sort of big banquet New Year's Eve thing that would be easy for me because you can go under the radar and just eat what you want to eat at some of those kind of things. It was a private dinner party with 3 couples, and basically I'm in there and I'm thinking, oh wow. So normally in those situations you kind of talk to the host first and say, I eat this way, and because God forbid they're serving lasagna and garlic bread. And then you sit there, and then what do you do? Because I'm certainly not going to eat lasagna. That was one of my trigger foods as a kid that I couldn't stop at one piece. So I these were actually people I didn't know all that well. And so the Caesar salads were at each of the dinner spots, and I just went over and I sat down, and I knew, I'm not eating Caesar salad or croutons. And I just sat there and just had my club soda and was chatting with everybody. Yeah, it was a little awkward. I think that people were looking over like, why is she not eating salad? And thinking maybe she doesn't like Caesar salad. I didn't really, and to me, it really didn't matter what they were thinking. I knew I wasn't going to eat the salad, but they cleared the plates, and I knew that a big, huge Chateaubriand, that this big, huge filet mignon was going on the grill, and I said, I'm safe, it's all good. And then there was a big broccoli dish and a big potato yam dish, and that part was easy, but it did come out. Actually, people were very interested, because it did come out the way I eat, and sometimes I like to just not bring it up. But the one woman's son, she said, "Oh my gosh, he is so into keto. He like researches everything, and he's been eating this way, and he's never looked better or felt better." So it was kind of like interesting dinner conversation. So I kind of escaped out of that one. But I'm going to say that's probably one of the more awkward social situations that come up. As far as like going out to eat with friends, it's no big deal. I get a bunless burger or a steak almost anywhere, or you can get a naked wings, chicken wing appetizer. I don't fret any of that, but that dinner situation, like I just said, that actually in my 11 years, that was probably one of the most awkward situations that I came across. And it was interesting because it's like, I didn't really care. Like, I knew I wasn't going to eat what I didn't want to eat. And so that comes with confidence of doing this long enough. I think for somebody, from everything I hear from people that I coach, they are, it's almost like they're, well, all right, I'm going to eat the salad today. Now I'm going to have a little dessert. And it's almost like an excuse to go off it for people. But I think once you do this long enough, you just are totally fine with it, and you know that you're the only one who's in control of what you put in your mouth.
Yep, that's so true. For me, the social aspect is the hardest part of being carnivore. I'm really lucky that, a lot of people in my family are carnivore. All my friends know this. I'm so entrenched in the carnivore community in social media. sometimes I feel like it's bigger than it is. And then when you go out to eat, if you're with new people or people that you don't know very well, kind of smacks you in the face, when they're like, what are you doing? How do you eat like this? I could never do that. The judgment sometimes. It's by far the worst part for me. And I'm lucky because the people closest to me also eat this way, which makes things a lot easier for, eating at home.
Right. No, I agree. I'm the same too. I think my husband thought I was crazy when I was first doing it, but I mean, he's seen me heal from disordered eating, which I struggled with for over a decade, and I mean, he's a believer. Like, he sees the night and day of me, and so now he's like, yeah, if you want to do that the rest of your life, go for it, because he'd rather have the me now than how I was before. So
Yeah.
So I think it makes sort of all the, like, everything you guys are saying, the social awkwardness, the shoot, where are we going to go to eat, and like, am I going to have enough meat on my plate? Is it going to cost $50 to have like 5 patties, that type of thing. But it makes it all worth it to have the health and your life back. I mean, yeah. So
if I'm unsure of the place I'm going to be eating or what's going to be served, I will often eat meat before I leave, just so I don't have not just the pressure of other people's judgment, but I don't have the pressure of hunger, which is huge for me. So that's how I deal with that kind of situation.
These are all very real things that we struggle with, but I still think the reason why we still continue to do carnivore is because, I mean, the health benefits and just getting our life back is so much more worth than the social aspects and those momentary kind of awkward, almost shame feeling, I guess. So, as we're wrapping up, what would be kind of like your advice to someone that's, interested in carnivore? It could be about anything. So what would be your tip of the day?
I think in the beginning, it's just eat any meat that you like. And I think keep it simple as you want it to be. If you like a lot of variety, then eat any kind of meat cooked any way that you like. And don't worry about, I eat meat from the grocery store and what's on sale that week and eggs if I'm broke, and, kind of just go based on that. I keep it really simple. I think over time, you're going to naturally learn, portions and ratios and macros, and that will come over time. And in the beginning, it's just important to kind of detox yourself and enjoy eating meat and get off of all the junk. And so eat, in the very beginning, eat as often as you like. And pretty soon you'll find that, most people, I don't really know too many people that eat 3 full meals a day doing carnivore.
My advice to a beginner carnivore is have a lot of extra meat cooked and in your fridge, like cook extra bacon, cook extra sausage, and have grilled sausage in your fridge, just cold grilled sausage when you're just kind of trying to figure out, you've got hunger or you've got cravings. Just go in there and, eat something that you really like, that's right there ready and made. And the second thing is, I think it's really important to surround yourself daily in some sort of community of carnivores, whether it's a Facebook forum or whatever group it is. Just surround yourself with other people that are doing this. I found it just was so invaluable just to be able to, chat online or write back and forth or talk to other people. And, through the years, I've had a lot of meetups with people. I just think it's so important because we feel like we're flying the freak flag because we're so different in what we're doing. And it's just so nice to have other people who have really felt the same benefits or, of eating this way. And, I find, people say to me, oh my God, you're so lucky you found this 11 years ago. And I say, I wish I would have found it 20 years ago. And somebody says, oh, I found it 3 years ago. I wish I found it, 10 years ago. It's like everybody who comes to this and it's changed their lives, you just can't even believe that, so badly that you had been onto this so much earlier to get the same benefits for so much longer. But I think surrounding yourself somehow with a community of like-minded people who are eating this way is really, really important.
I agree. A support group has definitely been part of my success. Eat the meat that you can afford, that you enjoy, and prepping meat, because I go from not hungry at all to very hungry in an instant. So not letting hunger catch you off guard at all is very helpful. So having, bacon or sausage or ground beef already cooked up is very helpful. Yeah, I think that having the support group, though, is going to be a major thing. And also, if you're transitioning, from the standard American diet or, to carnivore, you're going to have blood sugar dysregulation. Like, there's going to be other factors in there too. So just make sure that you're prepared for hunger.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you so much, guys. This is, I'm sure, will help so many people. I think a lot of people wonder, like, what do you have to eat, how much? And I think my takeaway from all of you guys is that really just do what's easy. Don't worry about organ meat necessarily at first. And don't track, just listen to your body and get the community support and try it, because it can be life-changing. That's
Absolutely
what I'm getting from you guys. So thank you guys so much for your time. Do you guys want to really quickly go around and say where people can find you? And then I'll also have it in the show notes.
The best place would be on YouTube. You can just search Laura Spath, or even Instagram. So Laura E. Spath on Instagram.
And I'm on Instagram, Carnivore Doctor, with spelling out the word doctor. And that's really the best place. And you can message me and I'll try to reply.
Best place to reach me is on Instagram at Love Our Low Carb Life.
Okay, and I'll include all of that in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm sure everyone's going to love it. So thank you guys. I will
Thank
see
you.
you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Laura. Bye, Pam.
Bye.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry about a little bit of the technical difficulties. It's a little bit harder to have multiple people on. I think it causes a little bit of glitches and stops. And yeah, but I hope you guys were able to learn a lot and know that, you know what, the carnivore diet is very different for everyone, but the biggest thing is that, hey, there's always healing. There are some drawbacks, especially when it comes to socializations, but the benefits of carnivore are so much more worth it than those moments where it might feel a little awkward with friends or not being able to eat a piece of candy. I hope you guys are motivated to try it and to stay carnivore. All right, guys, you guys know the drill. Make sure to eat a lot of meat. Take care of your bodies, because it is the only place you have to live. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye, guys.